pray like you guys pray, it never happens here. All right, so he's going to yell, he said, he's not going to use my hand.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Officer Gabori. I used to be assigned here, so there's a lot of familiar faces. I was assigned here for about 4.5, 5 years when you guys just first started. We did this training, a little bit of it. It was before the district and the department came up with the concept of rapid relocation. So this came around after Sandy Hook. When Sandy Hook happened, I believe was the last time we kind of had this discussion. The school asked if we could give a quick briefing and what we do. It was with Officer Escobar and myself. We did it next to the library. Well, after that, the district had gone to Sandy Hook. They sent our deputy chief, a lieutenant, and a sergeant went to Sandy Hook. They were part of the debrief. They came back with, what can we learn from this incident? Because Sandy Hook, they did everything they were trained to do. They did their lockdown like they were supposed to. And they still suffered such a loss that the district came back with, what can we learn from this incident? So they came up with this concept of rapid relocation. It's in your safe school plan. Everyone's read it, right? Like we're supposed to? Does everyone at least know where it is? Main office? AP's office? Well, the handout you got is part of your safe school plan. So after this training, I suggest take a look at it. Just something to have in the back of your mind. So when if something like this ever happens, you know, you have something in the back of the mind, kind of like insurance, you know what to do. We don't waste time trying to think of what we're going to do. Because you're going to see how fast things develop. On the average, we're seeing victims, 1 to 4 victims every minute. So, moving along. What's an active shooter? By definition. All right. One or more suspects armed with a firearm shooting victims on a school campus. Right? Or actively seeking victims. Now, does it have to be a gunman? No. Right? We saw recently, it was in Minnesota, in the shopping mall, suspect had a knife, running around stabbing, I believe he stabbed 7 or 8 people. No fatalities. Off-duty police chief was in the mall, ended up shooting the suspect, killing him. A few years ago, we had UC Merced up north. Same thing. Suspect had a knife, machete, running around on the campus. Campus officers responded, ended up shooting and killing the suspect. And as we've seen recently, we're seeing the pressure cooker bombs. We saw the truck in Paris, right? So what suspects are using are basically what our imagination could take us to. And that's what it is. We never know what the next device is going to be, what the next suspect's going to think of. So it's always changing. And as it changes, our tactics change. So we're talking about average incidents. Last 10 to 15 minutes. Does it always have to be that? No. A lot of times what we're seeing is suspects have their plan, they're going to start doing what they're going to do, and they know the police response. They know they have a very brief time frame to cause as much damage, as much harm as they can. Because police officer response is getting faster. We were talking about it, 1 to 4 victims every minute. So that's why we're here today. We want our staff to start thinking ahead, right? So we don't waste that time. We don't have that, like I was saying, deer in the headlights feel. Have something ready to go. You know, you have that number stored in your phone. You know what, you have some sort of plan. And it's not just in a school setting, right? We're seeing this everywhere. Whatever we talk about today is going to be useful in any situation. And at the end, we're going to talk about what Homeland Security had come up with, run, hide, fight. Has anyone heard of that before? It's what usually the media shows. Well, if you pay attention, run, hide, fight, they never show it in a school setting, a K-12 environment. Because there's reasons why that doesn't work in a K-12 environment, and we'll cover that. So, majority of our suspects are committing suicide. They're either doing what they're going to do based on whatever they have planned, and then they take their own life, or usually, as soon as they hear sirens, or confronted with law enforcement, they're taking their own life. So that's why we need that phone call to dispatch, to 911, to get officers here as fast as possible. If the suspect takes his own life, so be it. If he barricades himself, like we saw in Orlando, the Pulse nightclub shooting, then we can handle that a different way. If he ends up confronting us, at least it's taking his focus off of victims, and he'll engage us. We have a vest on, we have a gun, we're able to at least shoot back. So, and with that, our police tactics have changed even more. Average response time, 7 to 10 minutes. It's even gone much less than that. Sandy Hook. Has anyone seen where Sandy Hook was located? Top of a mountain, kind of wilderness in the area? Well, first unit was on scene in 4 minutes. They made entry into the building in under 7 minutes. As they were approaching the building, they heard a single gunshot. That would believe it was a suspect saw through the window or heard sirens responding, took his own life. San Bernardino, right? Everybody saw San Bernardino? First, the lieutenant that was on scene, he was there in less than 4 minutes. They made entry into the building in 6 minutes. Now, the suspects had already fled. Because of all the conflicting 911 calls coming in, the lieutenant said that he saw the vehicle leave, but he didn't know, he didn't have a good description of the vehicle at the time. So they made entry in less than 6 minutes. Up to the most recent one, the biggest one was Orlando, Pulse nightclub. After the 911 call, first unit was on scene in 2 minutes. They made entry into the building in less than 5 minutes. So the police tactics are getting much faster, quicker response time, the whole concept of the first responder. So we need that phone call to go to 911, to go to our dispatch as fast as possible. And the reason I say our dispatch and 911 is because they're 2 separate numbers. Does anyone know that, does everybody know hopefully that we are not part of LAPD? We are school police, we're part of LA Unified, we are contracted with most of the charters. So, when I say our dispatch, you call that number, because let's say something is happening on your west end of the campus, and we have officers, right, where the school police office is, near Haynes, or near the east side of your campus. We just need to get those calls out as fast as possible, right? Few significant incidents that happened. Everybody remembers Columbine? So, Columbine, the first one that kind of everybody remembers. But school shootings, school massacres aren't new to us. It shouldn't be. Does anyone know the largest death count was in Minnesota in the 1920s? School treasurer used explosives, killed over 50 students and staff at a school. So Columbine is the one that sticks out to us. Well, a few things about Columbine that no one really knows about. The suspect's original plan was to set off explosives away from the school. So all the first responders would go there. The next, they were going to have explosives go off in the parking lots and inside of the school. So the school would go into their typical fire drill evacuation. As the school was doing their evacuation, additional explosives were supposed to go off in the hallways. The death count would have been much, much higher. And the remainders coming out of the buildings, the suspects, if the building is kind of L-shaped, Columbine, and the suspects are going to be standing at each exit executing people as they left. The explosives didn't go off because they used just new chemicals with older technology. That's why the suspects ended up going into the building. They had over 100 pipe bombs hidden inside of that school. Why is that important to us? When you do your fire drills, you do your evacuations, right? You know your campus better than any of us would. So when you're doing your evacuation, nothing says that you need to take the same path every time. Right? Nothing says you need to take the same path of travel every time. You guys evacuate to the blacktop and to the, or 2 fields, right? Baseball field? Right? That's great. At least you're separated. Right? Because the reality is, this is a lose-lose situation. We're reacting to something that our suspects have already pre-planned. All we're trying to do is lose small. A lot of schools, everybody goes to the blacktop. So what we always suggest is, before you send your entire school and staff to one location, you send anybody out there to do a quick walkthrough. Take a good look around, make sure there's nothing out there, there's no hazards out there. It's just things to start thinking about now. Another thing about Columbine. Back during Columbine, police tactics were to hold a perimeter around the incident and wait for the SWAT teams to respond. The SWAT was carrying the rifles, the additional ammunition, extra body armor, the additional tools to pry doors open, right? After that, it changed to the first responder concept. It changed to first 4 officers on scene, or we're going into the building, going after the suspect. And since then, it's even changed. Beslan, Russia. Everyone heard of that incident? Yeah. There's always a few. So Beslan, school setting, Chechen extremists go into the school, have over 1,100 hostages. We're talking about the 10 to 15 minutes, turned into a 3-day standoff. 3-day standoff, eventually Russian special forces end up going in, they have a big shootout, suffer a huge loss. Only one of the terrorists survives and is doing life in prison somewhere in Russia. Right? Virginia Tech. Everyone remember Virginia Tech? Up to recently, up until Orlando, Virginia Tech had the highest death count by gunfire in the U.S. Something significant about Virginia Tech. Our suspect targeted 3 classrooms. 2 classrooms were the ones that sustained the victims. The classroom that survived was the one that got their door locked, or had the locked door. And we're going to talk about that, having your classroom door locked. Because our suspects are looking for the weak point. When they walk in to wherever they're going to do their damage, they're looking for the open door. Because they know the response, right? 4 minutes, 2 minutes, the response is getting there. So they're trying to get as much pain as they could cause before officers get on scene. So they're trying to find that weak point, whether it's an open door, open window, whatever the case. Sandy Hook. We kind of talked about it 3 years ago, I'm sure everybody remembers. So Sandy Hook, they did everything they were trained to do. Well, Sandy Hook is better than most of our LAUSD schools, as in the main office door, like all our LAUSD schools, that's our weak point. It's always open during school hours. They have theirs locked door, has a camera with a buzzer, they have to get buzzed in by the main office. Well, the flaw with that was they had a big window right next to the door. So the suspect ends up shooting the window, goes into the main office. The first victims are the staff in the main office. Principal, school psychologists are in the hallway, they hear gunfire, they start running to the main office. They're the next 2 victims. So obviously the school is not making a lockdown announcement. Teachers are hearing gunfire, they're trying to self-initiate lockdown. Right? So the first classroom is a kindergarten, pre-kindergarten. A TA goes out there, try locking the door. Their doors are just like our doors, they lock from the outside. She goes out there to lock it, she's messing with her keys, she can't find that school key, the class key, ends up taking a shrapnel to the foot. They don't know if it was a bullet or if it was a piece of shrapnel off of concrete, hit her in the foot. She drops her keys, runs back inside the classroom, the suspect ends up coming in after her, and most of the casualties happen in there. Reason I talk about the keys, do everybody carry like us, LAUSD style, cluster of keys? Well, when something like adrenaline rush happens, fine motor skills are going to be near impossible to work. So trying to find a classroom key in a cluster of this is going to be near impossible. You're going to be wasting a lot of time. Right? So I always make the suggestion, something that we came up with. We always suggest keeping your classroom door locked, closed and locked, just to save time. But I know a lot of times people leave their doors open, unlocked, whatever the case, they don't want the disturbance. This is something we came up with. Anyone know what that is? Used to be 6 feet. Pool noodle. Every time I do a presentation, I get jacked for a piece of it. But it was something very simple. You can keep your classroom door locked. You kind of put it on the door. Door opens and closes, doesn't make any noise. I bought a 6-foot noodle for $2, and during the first presentation, I was told I got ripped off because they're $1. So that's all that's left. But you can also buy like Home Depot pipe insulation, lasts a little longer, a little heavy duty. Whatever works. I don't know what the charter's policy is on classroom doors, keeping them locked and closed. I can tell you what the district's is, and it's probably going to be very similar to that. LAUSD, after Columbine, said you got to keep your doors locked and closed. All right? So safety was a primary concern. Well, after Miramonte, they said you got to keep your doors open. They must see what's going on inside. All right? He was in the news again recently. So after Sandy Hook, they leave it up to each individual school. As law enforcement, we encourage keeping the door locked and closed. Because remember, the suspect's looking for that weak point. Moving along, Colorado, movie theater. Everyone remember the Batman movie premiere? Significant, 70 injured. A lot of that is panic, right? Dark movie theater, people were confused, thinking it's part of the movie, what's going on? Well, I guarantee a lot of people didn't think of emergency exits when you go into somewhere. You know, if something happens right now, where am I going to go? Which direction am I going to go? And I throw that in there just for, you know, your shopping. Holiday season's coming around. You're in the mall, you're somewhere. What are you going to do if you start hearing screams, gunfire, whatever? Most people are going to go for the exit. You know, most people aren't, well, a lot of people won't think of, let me just go in the storeroom. Let me go in the restaurant's, the kitchen, hide somewhere, right? Everybody's going to make a run for the same entrance that they walked in from. Start thinking of this stuff as you go into wherever you're eating dinner tonight, you're shopping. Take a couple of seconds and put yourself in a scenario. If something happens, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my family? After one of these presentations, a high school presentation, a teacher pulled me aside and said that he was in the middle of the LAX terminal police shooting. Does everyone remember that one? TSA agent was killed. He said that him and his family, his kids and his wife, were about to board a plane when everything started happening. So he grabbed his kids and started running with the crowd. He ended up on the tarmac. He said once he got on the tarmac, he realized he forgot his wife. So I told him, what happened? Go back? He's like, no, just stay here. I ain't trying to get killed. So, he said that, you know, maybe if he went through this beforehand, they would have had some sort of plan with the family. In case of emergency, we got to, you know, stick with us, pay attention to what we're doing. Right? All we're doing today is a little bit of insurance, right? Hopefully we never need any of this stuff, but in case we do, we have something planned. San Bernardino, everybody remembers? Significant stuff, he targeted coworkers, right? We had a female gunman. We hadn't seen that in a while. So we never know what the next suspect's gonna look like. Right? Pulse nightclub, we're talking about the response time, 2 minutes. The suspect, his motives are, during the time of the incident, is irrelevant to us. Right? Investigators, detectives, all of them, they can handle that stuff after. We're in the middle of it at the time. So he ends up in a barricaded situation. Police tactics will change. Right? If he barricades himself and he's not actively killing people, hurting people, we call that a barricaded situation. So it's going to be the perimeter, negotiators, SWAT team, you know, people that are trained in negotiated, barricaded suspects will start responding. But at any moment, if it turns active, they start hearing gunfire inside, officers will end up going in. It's the same concept. Got out of range. So, why do we initiate a lockdown? Safety, right? Common stuff, safety. The last lockdown was, not that long ago. We had one last semester. No. Right? Yes. The suspicious device. Something.
Yes.
All right. So you guys had one recently. Most of the time we do these at elementary level. They rarely have lockdowns. So majority of the time, our lockdowns are for incidents on the perimeters of the school. So if we find out that LAPD has something going on the perimeter, they want the school on lockdown, right? We determine that, okay, the reason they want the lockdown is they just don't want foot traffic, they don't want parents, whatever going towards their incident. We'll set up our plan just to deter our students and staff away from it, right? And lift the school from lockdown. A lot of times they think school's on lockdown, okay, it's easy. Well, they don't realize we have a few thousand people locked in classrooms, right? It's not that easy. We just lock down and okay, well, there's a chain of notification that happens throughout the district, right? It sends the department to a whole chain of notifications. So as soon as we determine that, okay, we could rent, let's say the west side of the campus, they don't want anybody there, fine, we'll deal with that and move everybody to the other side. At an elementary school, we'll call it a modified dismissal or a rainy day schedule, something like that, but we'll work around it. But who can initiate a lockdown? Anybody know? Principal, assistant principals, police. Same people can lift it. But a lot of times what happens, right, if the police get on scene, then we're going to be determining. A lot of times the school, let's say a helicopter comes in really low, school decides, I don't know what's going on, let me go on lockdown to be safe. Helicopter leaves, they determine, okay, I think it's safe, they can lift the lockdown. No officers were involved. If an officer gets involved, then it's going to be up to our discretion when the school can get lifted from lockdown. So don't get upset at the staff or the admin if the lockdown lasts a lot much longer than you think it is. So what's going on during a lockdown? Do you guys have any type of communication during your lockdown? As in, you're locked in your class, school's on lockdown, do you have any idea what's going on? There is. You guys have that system in place already? Email? Great. Most places don't. And the email concept we used recently at Portola Middle School, and it worked. School went on lockdown for a call of a crazy 40-year-old man on campus going to do something crazy. That was the call we got. So school went on lockdown, two schools, Portola and Wilbur, across the street. So we had to search the campus. The assistant principal sends out a mass email. Everybody replies back. Students are all accounted for. It took about 3 hours. But at this time, time is on our side. It's not an active situation. We're walking the campus. We're making sure there's nobody. All the classrooms are being cleared. So we're going to work with it. We're going to take our time, make sure everything is safe. We're talking about, is your door locked already? So this Taft Union High School. This was an active shooter happened there. A student brought a shotgun, was shooting people. Ends up in the classroom. Teacher ends up talking to students and putting the gun down, to the kid. He said after the incident, he went home and he's sitting there and he realized he misdialed 911 3-4 times because of that adrenaline rush. The fine motor skills we were talking about. Misdialed 911 3-4 times. He couldn't understand why. So imagine trying to go through all those keys and try to find that classroom key that door locked. Communication command post. We already talked about communication, the email system. If it's working for you guys, great. We have no problem with that. We just encourage some type of communication. A quick story about Canoga Park. This was the first time this email system worked for us. We had our officer goes to stop a truant on the perimeter. He runs, he drops a gun, runs across Topanga, over the fence into the school. Hunkers down somewhere. School goes on lockdown. Do we have an active shooter incident? No shots were fired. He dropped the gun right onto campus. He could have another one. That's why we need to search him. But we're not hearing gunfire. We're not hearing screams. There's no direction that we're getting any type of threat or danger from. So he's hiding somewhere on campus. So we need to go to the lockdown, right? School goes on lockdown first thing. Perimeter is set up. When you go on lockdown, we don't just say, oh, you're on lockdown, we'll be out on the perimeter. We leave officers on campus. So what we'll usually do is grab an administrator, take them to our command post, which is off campus, somewhere safe we can operate from, and leave officers on your campus. So we have direct communication. So we end up doing a 6-hour lockdown, search the entire school. The principal does that email system, sends out emails. He's receiving emails at the command post. Everyone's accounting for their students. Some are saying, oh, I'm missing 2. Others are like, oh, I have those in my class. And it worked. It took a while, but it worked, right? Except for the art teacher that had an extra person in their class that was a non-student 18-year-old and our suspect. So we lift lockdown. Students walking around on campus, well, non-student walking around campus, sees officers, takes off running, is taken into custody on the perimeter. During his interview, he says that he just sat in the class. So I'm assuming that teacher just assumed that this is just another lockdown, another drill, didn't really pay attention. Looked back at the emails and said, yeah, everybody's accounted for. Didn't bother saying yes plus one. Nothing like that. I don't know what happened to that teacher, you know, promoted. I have no idea. So, who to call? This is a common question. School police, LAPD. Well, you guys are in West Valley Division. Like I said, we have a different phone number, 213-625-6631. It's monitored 24/7. You work holidays, weekends, nights, all the above. So, something's happening on the campus. When you dial 911, do you know where it goes? Sacramento? Close, it goes to CHP. It's going to go to CHP. CHP is going to say, where are you calling from? Birmingham High School. Van Nuys, okay. Forward it to LAPD. LAPD is going to broadcast that valley-wide, right? Priority units are going to be West Valley, Van Nuys. That's your two nearest divisions. Anybody know how many units West Valley or each division puts out during the day? Ideas? West Valley, let's say. How many units do you think they put out? Patrol cars. Black and whites. 60? Average? 3 to 4. 3 to 4 marked black and white patrol cars. Sometimes it's plus, you know, call out. So they're putting out 3 to 4 patrol cars. In those. So you have, let's say they have somebody in custody, they're on a call. Does anybody know how big West Valley Division is? Starts at the 405, goes all the way to Corbin, goes all the way to Roscoe, all the way to Mulholland. Big area. So, it's very common that when a call comes out, especially if it's near a school, across the street from the school, we'll be responding along with LAPD. It is very common that we end up with more officers on scene initially than LA does. During the day, during school hours, obviously is our maximum deployment. At Northwest Division, we put out 25 cars. So just recently, last week, we had an incident at Santa Clara Elementary in Northeast. And LAPD, after the captains came up to us and talked to us, said, thank you, because there was no way we were going to be able to run this incident without you guys. Because they did not have enough resources. Because they couldn't handle the incidents in the division, just regular calls coming out, plus a barricaded suicidal suspect across the street from the school. So it's very common that we're working with all these agencies. Now, of course, in the long run, 30 minutes into an incident, an hour into the incident, yeah, LAPD is going to have more people. They have 12,000 officers in the pool. Right? They hit the button, all units are responding from all divisions. They will have a flood of officers. But during the initial incident, the likelihood of us getting more than them on the scene is really high. So we're talking about who to call. School police, 911. We encourage call both. Because we're just trying to get officers here as fast as possible. Obviously, you have an officer assigned to your campus, right? Everybody knows our substation is across the street, right? 1 to 4 victims every minute. We need officers on scene as fast as possible. And there isn't going to be any, don't tell the other agency what's going on. Obviously, we're sharing information. We do this regularly. We call it mutual aid. Mutual aid, if you've never heard of it, it's just agencies working together. Like we said, that Santa Clara Elementary incident, up to the Sands fire. When the Sands fire happened, we had 20, 30 officers assigned to that fire for 2 days, helping with evacuations, assisting fire, and escorting them in and out. So we work with mutual aid regularly. Out here in the valley, these are going to be your typical agencies that we're going to see, right? LAPD, sheriffs, CHP, CSUM PD. But I can tell you, San Bernardino, during the debrief, the chief said that within the first half hour, he had over 100 officers there. In the half hour, he had 100 officers. In 1 hour, he had 300 officers. And he had 8 officers from all agencies. All agencies respond. That's just the way it is. Everybody responds looking for work. I can tell you now that we were at a training recently, and FBI director, one of the assistant directors was there, And he said that now they're even considered first responders because they'll roll out a bus full of investigators. They will roll an entire bus full of investigators because everybody involved in that incident has to be interviewed, right? You could be a victim, you could be a witness. All those statements need to be gathered. So FBI's on board even, right? We've had incidents out here that parole's there, probation, all kinds of agencies show up. So mutual aid is getting bigger and bigger. So, during an active shooter incident, our primary objective is stop the threat. What do I mean by that? Primary, stop the threat. Well, I can tell you during a drive-by shooting, right, or a hit and run, our primary goal at that point is to render aid. The suspect did his damage, took off. So our primary is to render aid. Right? We're going to render aid, call the paramedics, let the additional units go after our suspect. Let the helicopter chase the suspect. Well, during an active shooter, we're flipping it around. Our primary goal is to go after the suspect. As long as there is a threat in that location, we are going after the suspect. And that's the way we're training officers now. When we do our training, we use role players. The role players are told to try to grasp for officers. You know, screaming for help. All that. Officers we're practicing, you know, you have to pull away. You stop, you may ask a few questions. What's the suspect wearing? What kind of weapon? How many people? Which direction they go? And you keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. The additional officers coming in, eventually, they're going to be escorting firing. If officers aren't able to put tourniquets on and get bodies out, they're going to be escorting fire department in. And that's where fire department's training changed significantly. Before fire department would fly to a call, code 3, light sirens, and wait a mile away until we told them it's safe for them to come in. Now, they have body armor, they have Kevlar helmets. They're able to go into what we call a worm zone, somewhere that we've cleared. It hasn't been 100% clear, but it's cleared enough that fire department can come in and start pulling people out. So we trained with them just recently at CSEM. We had a huge active shooter training. We had all kinds of agencies there. Fish and Game was there. So the training has gone pretty much nationwide. And I can even tell you, we were talking about how the first responder concept, first 4 officers on scene, were making entry. Well, most agencies are training now single officer response to active shooter. Because the percentage of the suspect taking his own life, fleeing, or most of the time they're such cowards that they really will panic and they can't exchange gunfire. They end up at least engaging the officer and they're shot and killed. So the single officer response is what our department trains in. Sheriffs, LAPD are also doing it, but because they're such a big agency, it does take a lot longer. Since Sandy Hook, we're all on the single officer response concept. So this video is Gardena High School in 2011. Our local gang member brings his gun to school. Has his gun in his backpack, is manipulating his gun. He had it for protection reasons after school. He's playing with his gun in his backpack, gun goes off. Shoots the girl in front of him in the arm. Bullet goes through her arm, gets lodged in another student's back. Students panic, run out of the classroom. The victims, they're out of the scene now. The classroom still has entire students, all the students are in there, with the teacher. School goes on lockdown. Do we have an active shooter incident? Single gunshot. We have a barricaded suspect. Actually, he's not even barricaded because he's not locking the door, he's not barricading himself. There is a potential that it could go active, but it's not currently active. It's a single gunshot and he's sitting in the classes. He's trying to blend in with the students, right? They had the victims aside. The victims that said what happened. We had a very good, we knew who he was. Sergeant Espinosa was there. I'm going to play the video. He'll kind of give you a little bit of a debrief after it. But look what this teacher's going to do. He's going to be standing in the doorway for a minute. Please, please, don't be this teacher.
This is a very tricky kind of thing that these police officers
Okay,
have
the door's
to do.
opening. That is probably the teacher right there.
They're talking to each other right now, trying to figure out exactly what to do from here on out. This is possibly the teacher who was able to calm the suspect down.
So that's interesting. The teacher wouldn't come out. Now they've taken the teacher and they've thrown him down on the ground. Apparently he was not cooperating with the officers.
Wow, that's certainly taking a strange twist right now. If this is in fact trying to calm down, maybe he's been able to get the student to comply with whatever he's asked of him, to not bring the gun out again. But of course, this is that's not a good situation. The teacher, not cooperating with the police officers. He obviously feels like he's got confidence that he has got this young man under control, I would guess, but he's been completely pulled out of the situation now. So now it's just the police officers, the gunmen, and we hope not other students in that classroom. Right, that's still something we don't know. If there are other students in this classroom right now, we did hear that there was one teacher. Okay, someone's here with his hands
Someone's
up.
raising their hands and
With all black, and that's what we had heard.
that's a student, that's another
Okay,
student.
that's someone else, maybe another student that was being held hostage in that classroom.
And here comes a second student.
Wow, and you see these kids coming out with their hands up. I mean, what they have been through in the last hour, we cannot imagine.
Interesting too, that some are walking out with backpacks and they're telling them all to drop their backpacks as they walk out the door. They're all coming out with their hands up. You're looking at a live shot from Medina High School, a student between 16 and 18 years old, identified by police. They know his identity. Holed up in this classroom after shooting two students, a male and a female, possibly a third shooting victim. He was in this classroom with all of these students, and now this young man is getting on the ground, and this appears to be the suspect. Now being subdued by police, he is on his stomach, hands behind his back, he's now being handcuffed. It looks like, if this is indeed the suspect, that this situation at Medina High School is now under control.
So, please don't be that teacher. Like I was talking about mutual aid, that was the LAPD arrest team. We knew where the suspect was. They were going up to the door to arrest him. They were not expecting a teacher in the way of the arrest. Sarge, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just a couple of things I know that Officer Gabodian covered. One, he talked a little bit about command posts and how we established a location off-site to determine what course of action we're going to take.